Tell me, with all of your expertise in U.S. military operations, how successful was this quite large feat that was accomplished?
Well, in terms of military raids, this was about as successful as you can have. Very little injury and casualty on the raid team side. I would assume that this is our special ops, Joint Special Ops Command out of Fort Bragg, our Delta Force team, which is very capable of doing this type of raid. So it's they've executed in a magnificent way.
How does the United States run Venezuela moving forward until a meaningful legal election can be held in that country? Is it boots on the ground? Is it a U.S. show of force on the ground in Venezuela?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, I think you're going to have allies in Venezuela because there are a lot of people that were not fans of Maduro, as you know. And at the end of the day, you're going to have those powers to come. The other challenge will be to corral the existing military members that supported Maduro. But I think it would be a limited amount of U.S. force on the ground, more political in nature, I would think.
Is it difficult to achieve now that we've not only received the president, we're bringing him to the United States to stand trial? How difficult is it to keep the mission going, which again is making sure that Maduro uh, fragments don't regain power in that country?
Right. Well, I think at the end of the day, it'll come down to redeveloping the economy in Venezuela. As you probably know, prior to Hugo Chavez being there, it was the number three economy in the world, and it went to the second poorest economy in the world. So I think it can come back. It's got a lot of intellectual capability among the people there. So I think it'll come back fairly quickly.
People are already talking, saying that this was about oil. The president himself talked about oil and the reimbursements to American companies a great deal in his own words in that press conference today. How much does oil have to do with this?
Well, I think it's a big part of it, Casey. I mean, there's a great history here. Goes back before Hugo Chavez came in, when Exxon was down there. There were a lot of claims who owned the oil. You know, there's a whole international court case around that. Of course, they nationalized oil. It is the largest deposits in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. And so oil will play a great part. And of course, the challenge will be dealing with our competitors, the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, who have been in Venezuela doing a lot of things. And a lot of that oil was going to those resources, especially the China and elsewhere. And so this will be a very interesting evolution in terms of the economy.
Those countries you mentioned are adversaries of the United States: Russia, Iran, China. The fact that they've been cozy with Venezuela in recent years, is that worrisome as we are looking at a regime change?
Well, I think it's paramount to the region. You know, I have often said that the United States should have been down in Venezuela, not so much because of the drug dealers, but because of the fact that our adversaries were there and they could establish military bases and they have built infrastructure there. And certainly, if they had put nuclear submarines, they could shoot at Dallas and Houston and Austin, Corpus Christi. And so Texas really had a vested interest to seeing that Venezuela became normalized.
What does the role of the Venezuelan military play? I've heard some pundits talking today
Mhm.
saying that they had to have cooperated with the United States in order for the U.S. to come in with as little fire and as little enemy forces retaliating.
Well, there's some of that. I mean, obviously, the more human intelligence we have on the ground is always beneficial. And ultimately, the real question now will be, where will the loyalties lie of the military? And it's just like any military, when you go in, if you want to have the cooperation of the local military, you have to sort of go back through an allegiance swearing ceremony of where's your allegiance going to be. And so I think that's going to be one of the evolutions that has to take place as this whole evolution of issues sort out there in Venezuela.
What about Colombia? We need to be keeping our eyes on Colombia as well, a large supplier of illicit drugs into the homeland, and their leader is also not exactly a friend.
Well, I think it depends on who you talk to. Obviously, you know the he is espoused against the drug cartels. You know, he obviously is a very liberal guy versus maybe the president's philosophy. And you know, of course, there's one challenge that you have in Colombia, which we have tried to solve for years in the drug trade, and that's with the group called the FARC. And the FARC was very successful in their terrorist activities for years, you know, kidnapping people, all of this. And because of the thick jungle in Colombia, it's a different sort of animal.
Mhm. All right, let's talk about last question for you. With all, again, of your experience in theater and in being involved in the planning of special ops missions, how much went into this? President Trump alluded to it a little bit, saying that they had carried out rehearsals and they were going to do it 4 nights ago, but the weather wasn't right. We've been gradually building up an armada off of the coast of Venezuela. So this doesn't happen overnight, even though we all wake up in the morning and it's the headline on our phones.
Yes, well, you know, the military has a lot of war plans in its repertoire of activity. Special ops is one of them. Of course, large conventional warfare is the other. And so our forces always are training for those various missions. And so for this specific mission, you know, you take what you already are training for and then make it specific to this particular scenario, you know, whether that's taking out military forces that could harm you, getting forces on the ground to get your objective, in this case, to get Maduro and his wife, and then get out as safely as possible.
I lied. I want to have one more question for you,
Sure.
because we could talk for an hour about this. What do we need to be watching most in the days and months moving forward?
Well, I think, in my opinion, when anytime the political masters of the country have a plan, the question is what is your end state? Because ultimately, the American people want to know because there's a cost here, whether it's in lives, money, material, etc. And so, the longer we don't give a view of what the end state is, the more skeptical the American people will be. So we have to, hopefully, our political leaders will certainly understand that. I'm sure on Monday, when Congress is back in session, there'll be lots of conversations going on. So,
Major General Jim Williams, a pleasure anytime you devote some time to us to lend your voice and your expertise on these important matters. Thank you, sir.
my pleasure, Casey. All the best and Happy New Year to you.